Hello, everyone. My name is Jenny Morris, and I'm with Autism Support of Alabama. Thank you for joining us today for our webinar Wednesday. We will be joined by Jenny McInerney with McInerney Law. We're so grateful to have her today. She's going to speak to us about special needs trust and what every parent should know. A little bit about Jenny. She is a mother of two children on the autism spectrum. So she does know the value personally of the Special Needs Trust. She owns and runs McInerney Law Firm, and she has been in practice for 18 years. Jenny also lives and works in Homewood in Birmingham. So please help me welcome Jenny McInerney. Thank you so much for your time today, Jenny, and we're grateful for you to be here.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so happy to be here with all of you. Um, as Jenny said, I'm an attorney here in Birmingham. And because I have two children on the spectrum, my practice primarily focuses on serving our community. So I do special needs estate planning. I do regular planning as well, but I do focus in more of your special needs estate planning because there aren't many of us out there in the state who practice in this area. But I also do guardianships and alternatives to guardianship. So if you have a child who's reaching the age of majority soon and you want to talk about alternatives to guardianship, I'd love to have that conversation with you as well. I also do anything that you can do in probate court. So that's estate administration, probating a will, name changes, business succession planning, all of that. So if you have any questions or if I can help you guys in any way, please let me know. Okay, so throughout the presentation, I am going to ask you guys to submit your questions. Don't feel like you need to hold them until the end of the presentation. Just go ahead and ask those questions so that I can address it kind of on the spot, because if you're thinking it, somebody else is probably thinking it too. Okay, so I will use my children throughout this presentation. And we'll kind of explain the concepts behind special needs planning, why we want to do it, and the real importance of it. And I'll be doing that by sort of using my children as an example to kind of put it into kind of make it applicable, make it real life for all of us. So this is a picture of my children. So this is Erin. She's 23 years old. She is a personal care assistant for a friend who's on the waiver program. And she does that part-time. She is disabled and she receives benefits under SSDI. She receives Medicare and Medicaid. And we're going to talk about that in just a minute. This is also my son, Benjamin. He's 9, and he enjoys playing video games and playing the piano. So I always like to talk a little bit about, who they are as people, not just their diagnosis. Both of them share an autism spectrum diagnosis, and each one of them have other diagnoses as well. So when we talk about children who have a diagnosis, they have a disability, they have a condition that is going to impair or impact their ability to work a full-time job. What we know about those individuals, or even live independently, is that they are going to require assistance throughout their lifetime. A child with a disability grows up to be an adult with a disability. Just because you reach the age of 19 doesn't mean your disability magically disappears. So there are 2 ages that I want to make sure everyone kind of plugs in, remembers, gets concreted. At age 18, the federal government is going to consider our children a legal adult. What that means is that's going to trigger us to do a disability application. Once they're 18, it's on their own record. Lots of parents will ask me, when they're 18, Is my income still going to impact their ability to qualify? The answer is no. When they're 18, the government is just going to look at their income. It's going to look at their assets. It's going to look at their disability to determine whether or not they qualify. At age 19, the state of Alabama is going to consider them a legal adult. What does that mean? That means when they reach the age of 19, they're considered an adult. You can no longer make medical decisions or financial decisions for them without either legal guardianship in place or legal documents in place allowing you to assist that individual. So please remember those two different ages and what it means for your child. So why special needs planning is important and why do we do it? Well, first of all, we do it to protect means-tested government benefits programs like SSI, Supplemental Security Income, and Medicaid, both of which have a resource limit of $2,000. Also protects programs like Section 8 housing, SNAP benefits, which have a resource limit of $3,000. It is a way that we can protect our vulnerable beneficiaries from those who may take advantage of him or her. What does that mean? We're going to set up a trust, and somebody else is going to manage that trust. They're going to decide how the funds are invested and when money comes out so that our loved ones aren't vulnerable to being preyed upon financially because they have a large trust account. Number 3, it sets up a system to manage their funds needed for their lifetime. What we're doing with a special needs trust is we're creating this pot, a pot of resources, a pot of funds that can be used to supplement our loved ones' needs throughout their lifetime, while at the same time, they're qualifying for programs like SSI, which pays $994 a month in 2026 to pay for housing, to protect Medicaid, which will provide for their health insurance, to protect programs like SNAP, which provides for food. We want those programs to continue to provide for those day-to-day needs while protecting that main pot of money for all of those extras in life, getting our hair done, getting our nails done, paying for medications, paying to go to the doctor, getting clothes, going on vacation. All of those things are extra. And it also provides a higher quality of life for our loved one. And that is because there's those funds set aside to help pay for those things that they're going to need throughout their life. So when we talk about needs-based government assistance programs, what we are talking about is we're talking about Medicaid, Supplemental Security Income, Section 8 housing, and SNAP benefits. These programs look at 3 main things to see whether or not you qualify. One is going to be whether or not your disability is so significant that it's going to impair your ability to work a full-time job. Number 2, they're going to look at your assets. What resources do you have available? If it exceeds $2,000, you won't qualify. And number 3, they're going to look at your income. Your income has to be below a certain level, a certain threshold in order to qualify for these programs. And each one is going to have a different qualifying income limit to qualify. These are the programs that when your child turns 18, these are the programs that they are most likely going to be eligible for when we talk about benefit programs. That is because to qualify, it's just looking at your disability, your income, your assets. Okay? SSI is intended to meet basic needs such as food and shelter. It pays $994 a month in 2026, and each year that's going to adjust for inflation. In Alabama, if you get qualified for Supplemental Security Income or SSI, you automatically become eligible for Medicaid benefits. That's important because for many of our loved ones with a disability, it's the health insurance that we're really going for. That's the real financial benefit. Because if we're having to pay out of pocket every month for insurance, doctor's appointments, prescriptions, that pot of money is going to get depleted really quickly. But if we're on a program like Medicaid that can provide for can provide for that same coverage without going into that pot is going to last longer. This is the disability definition under Social Security. It is substantial gainful activity. I like to tell my clients to think of this definition as how much is this disability impacting this individual's ability to work. For my daughter, Erin, her autism presents a significant challenge to her holding a full-time job. Obviously, I mentioned earlier, she has a number of other diagnoses as well, which in combination significantly impacts her ability to hold a full-time job. And that's why she qualified for disability. But if you have a child who has a diagnosis but can otherwise work a full-time job, then benefits are not appropriate at this time. But keep in mind that your child or your loved one, when they're in their 20s, when they turn 18, they're in their 20s, their 30s, that's their peak window of health. And their health is only going to get worse over time, just like all of us, right? Making an assumption here that as we age, we become sicker, we get more conditions. And so while your child could probably or maybe could work full-time job at 18, maybe by age 28, they no longer can. That their condition, they've added conditions, their condition has started to present differently, that's not regulated or controlled appropriately, and now they're unable to keep a full-time job. At that time, it would be appropriate to apply for benefits. Those benefits are meant to kind of supplement what they would be getting if they were working a full-time job. And that's because we want to keep them engaged in the community. There is a second form of disability, and it is called Social Security Disability Insurance, or SSDI. This program is the type of disability that most of us, I'm sorry, that's my daughter. She gets an override on my cell phone, so she can always reach me if she needs. So this is the type of disability we would all go on if we became disabled today. That is because it is based on our work history. How much we've put into the system is based on, have you earned 40 credits? It's about working 10 straight years of work. If we've put that in, we're going to draw that back if or when we become disabled. And so a child turning 18 doesn't have a 10-year work history, or they ought not. And so they're unable to apply for SSDI. So that's why they would apply for SSI. However, a child can draw SSDI if they became disabled prior to turning 22 years old, and one of their parents has died, retired, or become disabled themselves. Okay? A parent dies, retires, or becomes disabled themselves. That child who's 18, 19, 20, 21, 22 can draw from that parent's work history. Now, SSI, when you get that, you automatically get Medicaid. With SSDI, after 24 months, you're going to receive Medicare health insurance. So it is possible that an individual could be receiving SSDI payments, Medicare, and Medicaid because they have that limited resources. So when you have both Medicaid and Medicare, it's called dual enrollment. And in Medicare's open enrollment period in October, you'll see commercials on TV advertising these special needs dual enrollment eligibility programs. Those are specific Medicare programs designed for individuals who receive both Medicare and Medicaid coverage. So what is it that we actually are planning for? we're laying the foundation for our child. Right now, my daughter's 23. She's still on our health insurance until she turns 26. But if something happens to me and my husband, her health insurance is gone. We have to lay that foundation. When she got on disability, she started receiving Medicare and Medicaid. So if something happens to us, we know there will not be a gap in her medical providers. There won't be a gap in her getting her medication. There won't be a gap in her getting therapy. Everything will keep going just as normal as if we were still here. That's the goal. We don't want to disrupt her life. We want everything to stay as consistent and as least chaotic as possible for someone who's on the spectrum. We're planning for all of the things that she wants to achieve in life. She wants to live independently one day. She wants, all of the comforts and qualities of life that all of us want, furniture in her house and, jewelry. And she wants to be able to, get her hair done and get new shoes, when she needs shoes and all of these things that she's only going to be able to have and go on vacation or go out to eat with friends if she has that pot of money to draw from, because that $994 isn't going to go very far. So what is a special needs trust? Okay. A special needs trust, I want you to think about it in these terms. All it is a rule book. Okay. It's a set of pages that sets out the rules of how the money that's in the trust can be used or not used. It sets out the rules for who's in charge of that trust, who makes the decisions about it, who's the backup person. That's all a trust is, okay? But what it ensures is that it ensures that somebody, the trustee, is investing that money. That trustee is also deciding when money comes out of the trust for Erin's benefit, okay? The trustee is responsible for ensuring that she's not going to get scammed, that she has all of her needs met. It's that trustee is responsible to make sure that she's getting every government benefit program that she's eligible for and that we're maximizing that so that that pot of money can last longer. That trustee, I want you to think of it in terms as kind of like the CEO of not just the trust, but of your loved one's life. Okay. They're entrusted with making sure that every need that Erin has, every wish that she has, everything is being met. Okay. This is the legal definition for a trust. There's a lot of verbiage that we use in the law, like, settlor, beneficiary, grantor. Really, you just need to keep in mind that as a parent, grandparent, aunt, uncle, loved one, you can leave money to someone who is on disability without them losing disability, because that money is going to go to the trust, not to the individual. Okay. That's so critical because back in the old days, and still sometimes today, I see families who come in and they say, I'm going to disinherit my child who has autism because they're on benefits. And if they get an inheritance, they're going to lose their benefits. And I tell them, number one, we don't know how much money you're going to die with and what you're actually disinheriting them from. Number one. Number two, the law assumes that what you put in your will is what you wanted. So if you leave all of your money to the sibling because they're going to take care of the disabled child, there could be unintended consequences. That sibling could get married and then that sibling dies. By law, her spouse takes that money. It's not going to be set aside for the other child. You have to leave the money where you want it to go. And if you want your child with a disability to receive an inheritance from you, you have to set up a special needs trust in order to receive that money. Now, a common misperception about trust is that you have to have a lot of money to have a trust. That's not the case. When we talk about special needs trust, remember, that asset threshold is $2,000. If your child is going to inherit more than $2,000 from you, you need a trust set up to receive that inheritance so your child doesn't lose benefits. Now, I know all of you are going to go Google special needs trusts and you're going to find a lot of information and you're going to get really confused. So, we're going to walk through the fact that there are different types of special needs trusts. What we've been talking about so far is called a third party special needs trust. A third party person, me, mom, is going to leave money for Aaron, the beneficiary. Okay, so it's not Aaron's money, it's my money, and I'm giving it to her. Okay. The benefit of that type of special needs trust is that when Aaron dies, if there's money left over, I can determine where that money goes. So I can say, hey, it's going to go to her brother's special needs trust and vice versa, so that I know the two children who have a diagnosis are going to be protected. Now, the largest difference between a third party and a first party special needs trust is that with a first party trust, that is money that's already the beneficiary's money. Okay, so let me explain that. If Aaron drives, if Aaron gets in a car accident, someone hits her, she gets a settlement. Settlement can make her ineligible for Medicaid, right? No, we can put that in a first party trust. And the reason it's a first party trust is because that money is being given directly to her in her name. We're just using the trust vehicle to protect her eligibility. Okay, so a first party trust is different in the fact that it's funded with the disabled person's money. Okay. Now, what happens at death is also different. This trust has to pay back Medicaid for what it has paid on that individual at that individual's death. So when Aaron dies, if she had a car accident, we put it in a first party trust. Whatever money was left at her death would first go to pay Medicaid. Okay. Once Medicaid was reimbursed, then it could go to the other beneficiaries. So common uses of a first party trust is going to be personal injury settlement or award. Like I talked about, you're in a car accident, you get injured in some way, it's going to a first party trust. It can also be used if someone is receiving an inheritance in their name and they need to protect their benefits. You know, great uncle died in California, and now Aaron's getting an inheritance that could make her ineligible. We're going to set up a first party trust and have the court in California order that money go into the trust. Third party trust, we just talked about that earlier. This is more used for those estate planning purposes. We're setting up a plan. We're laying that foundation for the future. We're making sure we have that pot of money set aside for Erin so that all of her needs can be met throughout her life. Okay, she's 23. She's got a long way to go. She has lots of needs, lots of wants. And so we want to make sure that that trust is properly funded to meet all of those needs and wants. Another tool that we can use a third party special needs trust for is between spouses. So I commonly use these. It's called a marital special needs trust in cases where one spouse is either on disability or has a cognitive diagnosis like Alzheimer or Lewy body dementia, where we know if the healthy spouse dies first, the surviving disabled spouse may need assistance managing that money in the future. So we're going to put it in a trust so it can be properly protected. The third type of special needs trust is called a pooled income trust. And in Alabama, we only have one option, and it's the Alabama Family Trust. These are great to be used for situations where someone needs to qualify for institutional Medicaid and they currently have assets that exceed $2,000. Let's say my grandmother is in her 80s and she fell and she's in the hospital and she's got to go into a skilled nursing facility, but she doesn't have the money to pay for it. All she has is $100,000 to her name. She doesn't own a car. She doesn't own a house. What we would do is we would take that $100,000, put it into a pooled income trust, and she would then become eligible for Medicaid. And she'd be able to go into that skilled nursing facility at that time. These are great trusts for individuals who are over the age of 65 and need to restructure their assets to qualify for institutional Medicaid. So who should be involved in the planning? Most of the time, it's just mom and dad, grandmom, granddad, maybe some siblings. But you can involve any of these individuals. I work with lots of financial advisors, lots of different types of professionals. If you want to name a trustee in your trust and you want to make sure they understand the role and the duties involved, involve them in that process. Let's talk about it. When I do signing meetings with my clients, we put the trust in a binder. I put resources in there so that if a trustee suddenly finds themselves appointed to this role and they have no idea what they're doing, number one, they'll know how to contact me for questions. But number two, they have a little guidebook to kind of get them going. And that's really important because you don't want that individual messing up in any way. You want to provide them with some instructions to kind of get going. I'm going to pop out real quick and just make sure I haven't missed any questions. Okay, so I don't see any questions so far, so I'm going to keep going, all right? So the other tool I wanted to talk to you guys about is ABLE accounts. The reason is because, number one, I'm a huge advocate of utilizing this tool. But number two, it's a great way to have both the ABLE account and special needs trust work hand in hand. They can work together and they can really maximize independence by using them together. So we talked about the special needs trust as being sort of a large pot of money. I can put that money in, grandmom and granddad can put money in, siblings can put that money in, and it's going to be preserved for Aaron in the future. For right now, we can also use ABLE accounts, and we use the ABLE account like a fancy bank account. That's how I want you to think of it when we talk about it as a tool. When I told you guys earlier to qualify for government benefit programs, you have to have less than $2,000 of assets in your name. There are two exceptions under the law. One are special needs trusts. There's no limit to what you can put into that special needs trust. Number two, the second exception are ABLE accounts. With an ABLE account, you can have up to $100,000 in the account before you lose benefits or they're suspended. So what I typically recommend for my clients is that they get an ABLE account set up. If their children have money in other bank accounts, we push those funds over into the ABLE account before we apply for SSI. And then on that SSI application, we tell Social Security, hey, when I get approved for disability, I want you to make my payments directly into my ABLE account. Number one, it's a really great way to manage that money. And number two, it's a great way to ensure you're not going to go over that $2,000 threshold. Not everyone can have an ABLE account. You have to be disabled and your condition had to occur prior to the age of 46 in order to qualify for one of these accounts. The different types of conditions that are classified for an ABLE account are set out here. So there are 7 different codes. You just pick one. I have clients all the time who say, well, my child has 4 codes they qualify for. That's fine. Just select one, okay? As you can see here, code 1 covers the autism spectrum disorder diagnosis. So for many of you watching this presentation, code 1 is what you would select when you're doing this application online. So it's important to remember that with the ABLE account, that is not something you can go to your local bank to open. You have to do it online. So you'll go to alabamaable.gov to set up your account. So ABLE accounts are 529 accounts. So what that means is with an ABLE account, the funds in that account are going to grow tax-free. And you can use the account for anything related to the individual's disability, okay? So the qualifying disability expenses are quite broad. See, it continues on this page. And what's important to remember is that it has to benefit that individual, okay? So just like a special needs trust, an ABLE account, it has to only the funds in those accounts can only benefit that disabled person. An example would be my daughter Erin goes to the pharmacy to pick up her prescriptions. While she's there, the pharmacist tells her that some of my prescriptions are ready for pickup. Erin cannot pay from her ABLE account for my prescriptions. She can only pay for hers. Okay, so there are 3 different investment portfolios that you can invest in the ABLE account. And every time you make a contribution to the account, you can select a different portfolio for those specific funds, okay? If you have a direct deposit, however you set up that deposit in the investment is how that every month's deposit will be invested. So when I set up Erin's Social Security deposit, I set it up as a moderate investment. So every month, those funds come into the moderate portfolio. So the ABLE benefits, why would you even use this account? Is that number 1, you can save more than $2,000 without losing benefits, okay? It's going to have no impact on your Medicaid benefits. It's not going to impact your SSI as long as you stay below $100,000. It is important to remember that an ABLE account is a great supplement with your S&T, but it cannot replace your special needs trust. And that is because there is a limit to how much you can put into the account every year. So for 2026, that limit is $20,000. Now, if the individual works, they can contribute an additional $15,000. However, there is a cap on the amount you can put in. Another great benefit is that if you pay Alabama state income tax, you can deduct up to $5,000 per taxpayer, $10,000 for a married couple filing jointly, for contributions made to an Alabama ABLE account. So I will tell you guys that my daughter has grown exponentially in her independence because of the ABLE program. That is because I am the authorized legal representative on her account. Think of it as a trustee on the account. I manage the money in the ABLE account, and I decide when money comes out, I decide how the funds are invested. You are able to be the authorized legal representative on your child's account, so long as you are the legal guardian, you have power of attorney, and there's your listing there of who is eligible to be an ALR on these accounts. So what I like about being the authorized legal representative is that you can get a prepaid debit card with the ABLE account, okay? So this is what it means. Let's say Erin has $10,000 in her ABLE account. Erin has an Able prepaid debit card. Every month, I choose how much goes onto that card. So we give Erin a budget. Now, this has taken 12 years to get here, okay? But we give Erin a budget, let's say $400 a month. That $400 a month, she pays for all of her medicine, her doctor's appointments, her therapy, food, gas for her car. All of those like day-to-day incidentals go on her Able card. And it's teaching her how to budget long term, while at the same time providing lots of protections. Number one, she only has access to that $400 on the card, not to the $10,000 in the account. So if she gets scammed in any way, it's going to be limited. Number two, every time she uses that prepaid card, I get a text message on my phone telling me where and for how much the transaction is. I can go into the system and block that transaction if it looks suspicious. So this is what the platform is going to look like when you go to sign up for an Able account. In the bottom right-hand corner, it says sign up for a prepaid card. And it's a little blurry, but you can see it says sign up with TrueLink. You'll want to click on that after you get your account set up. And you're going to click it, and it's going to take you to another page to set up your login. And what that is it's how you're going to manage that prepaid debit card. As you can see here, you can turn on and off certain protections on that card. So I can restrict that she cannot use the card online or with phone purchases, but provide certain exceptions. So as you can see here, you can allow for utility bills, medical bills, restaurant delivery, and phone, TV, or cable payments by online. So what this does is it allows that individual to have more financial freedom with those protections in place. There are also spending categories that you can block or allow. So if you have a loved one who has a hard time, let's say with alcohol, you can block bars and liquor stores, and the card won't be able to be used. I typically block places I know Erin shouldn't or won't be spending money, and then generally allow other types of transactions. Now, these blocks can be done in real time. So if Erin is going to go, stay at a hotel, for example, I can unblock the hotel, let her make that reservation, and then go back in and block it again. You can also block certain transactions over a certain threshold. So you could put that spending limit at $20 if you like. Wherever you feel comfortable, you can set that limit. But what this does is it allows our children, our loved ones with a disability, to live a full life, okay? To be like their peers, to have a card. The only people using cash day to day are our aging community and our disabled community. And both are often preyed upon financially because of that. Okay, it's a factor. So we do have a question, and I'm going to read it. And it says, is there a maximum dollar amount or percentage that can be taken out of the Able account? So no, there is not a max amount you can withdraw at a time. I think that the prepaid debit card can hold up to $20,000 at one time. I can never imagine a time where my daughter would have access to $20,000 or need it, right? But of the account itself, I'm not aware of any maximum amount. So before Erin got her driver's license, we actually put money into her Able account, and then we purchased her vehicle, her car, with her Able account. So we put the money in, we let it grow tax-free, and then we use those funds to buy her car. And that was a great way to use the Able account. I will tell you now that Erin's on disability and that Erin works part-time. We use her ABLE account to receive her Social Security benefits and to put in her work earnings. We're not making large contributions because between work and Social Security, we're at that $20,000 max per year. On the other hand, our 9-year-old son, Benjamin, who's on the spectrum, we don't know what his future is going to look like. So we use his ABLE account like a traditional 529 account. We put funds into it every month. And then at the end of the year, we're able to deduct up to $10,000 on our state income tax return. When Benjamin was attending Mitchell's Place, before he started public school, we used the ABLE account as sort of like a flex spending account. We would make a large contribution to the ABLE account in January, and then we would use the account to pay his tuition at Mitchell's Place every month. Other families that I work with, they use the accounts, to manage the expenses of therapy and of doctor's appointments and prescriptions and things like that. What's important to know here is that it is a tool in our toolbox that we can use for our children. The government doesn't give us many tools to the disabled community. The Special Needs Trust and the ABLE account can work hand in hand. When I'm gone, my husband and I, if we pass unexpectedly, Erin's day-to-day life is not going to change. She is going to continue to get $400 a month on that ABLE card. She's going to budget, paying for groceries, paying for gas, paying for prescriptions, doctor's appointments. That won't change. If she needs more money to supplement what she's using on her card or from her Social Security benefits, the trustee of the pot of money of that Special Needs Trust can push money over to her prepaid card. That way, Erin has what she needs to live that full life. She's also not going to the trustee of the trust saying, I need a new pair of shoes, come take me shopping so I can get a new pair of shoes. The trustee can just put money on her card and she can go buy what she needs or what she wants. It makes the role of trustee easier, and it also, at the same time, gives independence, confidence, all of those things that we want for our children. It gives that to them. So by utilizing those two tools together, we're able to achieve many things. We're able to keep them eligible for benefits. We're able to lessen the burden on the trustee, and our loved one is able to gain independence and freedom and be just like their peers. Let me check to see. I don't see any other questions, but I know you guys have them. So please feel free to drop them into the comment box. I'm going to put my email up here for you guys so you can see it. This is my email and my phone number. So if you guys have questions about a special needs trust, maybe you have a special needs trust, but you want to see if you can update it in some way. Maybe your child has a first party trust and you don't really understand the difference with your estate planning. Anything, you can send me a copy of what you have. I'm happy to review it, let you know my thoughts about it, if it's going to achieve the goals that you want. Sometimes I have clients come in and they don't know what their documents say. So I always ask them, what do you want it to say, right? Like what is your goal? What do you want to leave to your children? Who do you want to leave things to? Who do you want to be in charge? And then we walk through the documents together to see what may need to be changed or updated. But it's important that you know that what your will says is what the law is going to assume you wanted. So if you want to leave something to your disabled child, it must go to that child. Leaving behind no will is a heavy burden. I do a lot of administrations, and it's often more expensive than just having paid for a will and then letting that will be probated, because there are so many more hoops that we have to jump through. when there is no will. There's a lot more petitions, a lot more hearings, just a lot more legal work that has to be done. Okay, so I did see a question here. It says, how often do we need to update trusts? Um, typically we say every 5 to 7 years you should revisit your estate planning with a professional. I tell my clients, when you have a disabled child, things can change drastically year to year. And I always recommend that you review your estate planning documents once a year. Do it on your anniversary, do it at the holidays. My husband and I do it at the end of the year because we know work is going to be less. My husband's going to be off of work, so he's going to have more time to allow us to kind of think through some of these issues. But we revisit the guardian appointments, who's going to raise our children if something happens to us? Um, who's the trustee? Who's going to be managing all this, when we're gone? I want to make sure it's the right person. And so we do visit our documents yearly. I have clients who revisit their documents every other year. But our children have such specific needs. It's critical that we keep our documents up to date and we have other resources included. So another question is, can we start all of this at 17 and then file for disability at 18? You can do a special needs trust and an ABLE account at any age. So if your child is 2 or 3 and they're just diagnosed, you can go ahead and set all of this up right now, knowing your child is protected if something happens to you. You can always update these documents down the road, but what you need to plan for is a disaster, something drastically happening to you or your spouse. But yes, get all of this set up, and then at 18, you'll be ready to apply for disability for your child.
Jenny, thank you. I'm glad you caught those last two questions. I know already that just listening to you, I've already sent you an email about my family. So we have a special needs trust that we did when my son was 10. I have a 24-year-old son with autism. We have trusts for all of our family members. And we have an ABLES account, and we also receive money from the waiver. And I
Yes.
just feel like after listening to you, I can check the boxes of having those things done, but just the nuances of how to use those things and how better to use those things, I feel like that's what I'm missing. And that may be other people's situations as well. Also, I'm sure we have several people that need to start the process at any age. But, you know, I think you're going to be a great resource for all of us once we have all of those things set up, because you're a parent and you're
Yeah.
in the journey with the rest of us, and you're using these things daily, the nuances of using all of these wonderful tools we have access to.
Well, thank you. And I look forward to working with anyone who needs help. One of the tools that I include with my estate planning packets is with my families who have special needs children is sort of a day-to-day guide on their child. And I developed this guide for my own children because I wanted to leave this guide behind, sun up to sundown, how to take care of my children. If something happens to me, is there a safe place for them to go? Where to get their prescriptions filled? What are their likes or dislikes? Do they like to be touched or not touched? All of that. And I think those pieces are really critical to keep up to date because our children change and we want to make sure that they are in a safe place if something happens to us. We do have another question that came in, so I want to address that really quick. And it says, if I am disabled on SSDI and have 2 children on SSI disability, and I am expecting a financial settlement, what is the best way to protect those assets and a lot to my children? So first of all, if you're on SSDI and you have 2 children on SSI, if they are your biological children, they should probably be on SSDI as well because they should be drawing from your disability. Um, But the best way to protect a financial settlement of some kind is to set up a first party trust if you are under the age of 65. If you're over the age of 65, we would want to use a pooled trust. Um, so feel free to reach out, and I'm happy to answer those questions. If you have a very specific situation like this, I would recommend a first party trust depending on your age, but I would also talk to Social Security about why your children are not receiving SSDI as well, because that probably means they're eligible for Medicare as well. Um, okay, so but you'll want to utilize a first party trust for any settlement proceeds over, $2,000. Or we could use the ABLE account if the settlement is less than $20,000. Remember that contribution limit per year is $20,000. So sometimes we can use an ABLE account for a settlement if it's below that contribution threshold.
And everyone, I just want to remind you, we do have time for more questions if you have them, but just please put them in the chat.
If your child, I'll also add this too. If your child is disabled and they're receiving SSI, SSDI, you can also apply for SNAP benefits. And you can just go online, go to Google, type in SNAP Alabama. It'll pull up the SNAP application page and you can complete it. There is an income threshold to qualify for SNAP benefits. I think it's around $1,500 a month. And part of that application will be submitting your work earnings if you're working. So make sure you have access to those statements. But a lot of times I meet with clients, they've never even thought about SNAP benefits for their children. And it's not that we're taking advantage of the system. We're laying the foundation. If we're gone tomorrow, we want to make sure our kids are set up for success. We always tell Erin, we'll do everything we can to make sure that you're set up for success in every situation we put her in. This is just like, going to transitioning from elementary to junior high, right? This is a major life transition if you die. We want to make sure all of these pieces are in place so that there's the least amount of disruption to our child as possible.
And I think you mentioned this. I know in my situation, my son doesn't drive. He won't drive. He doesn't work. He does receive these benefits. But we use the special needs trust yearly to update, who's going to take care of him and what his interests are at the time. As you said, those things change. And so I know it is a frightening thing, first of all, to have to have these thoughts and have these questions and start writing it down and getting things taken care of. But there is a wonderful peace to knowing that you have these things in place. It
Yeah,
was for me.
and that you sort of have a team set up that if something happens, your child knows that team is going to be there. I like to analogize it to your IEP team. Our son comes to his IEP meetings and we tell him he's in third grade. This is your team, right? This is Team Ben. When you're at school, these are the people who are here for you, right? It's the same thing in a trust. Your trustee, your trust advisory committee, all of these people are going to be Team Erin for the rest of her life. And those people have to be specifically selected. Erin was part of that conversation. We talked to her, who would you want to be able to work with when it comes to these issues? Who would you want to be in charge or help you with these certain things? And she's the one, and we did it together. We said, this is what we're thinking. How do you feel about this person being in charge? And we let her voice be part of our planning process. And I think that's really important because, she is an adult and these are decisions that are going to impact her life, and her opinion matters. And so in our estate planning, we give her a voice. And I think that's really important for parents to think about and consider Just because they have a diagnosis doesn't mean they're not capable of understanding what we're doing. And involving them gives them more power and gives them less anxiety around this idea of something happening to you.
I think that's wonderful advice. And, as they grow, maybe they're not able to voice those opinions right now, but as they get older, they may be able to. So don't, I remember putting mine together when my son was 9 or 10, and I thought, he's not going to understand any of this, but he's 24 now, and there's a lot more that he understands now. And so, you don't even, if that's overwhelming right now, that's something you don't have to do right now, but just get it started.
That's exactly right. And the more you talk about an idea or a concept, the more someone understands it. Um, you know, Erin is pretty well versed in estate planning because this is what I do. And she will come up and help me at my office, right? So she knows what a will is. She'll ask questions about different documents that she may see or come across or hear me talk about. Um, and so the more you talk about it, the more they understand with anything, and the more they can participate. So it's like the idea with the prepaid debit card. I have clients who say my child could never do that. I thought that too when Erin was 14, when we first started doing this. I mean, we never imagined that she would be where she is today. um, it blows people's minds that she's come this far. And it's really because we believed in her. We set those expectations, She believed in herself because we believed in her. And that's so important, to empower your child that way and to see them be successful. That doesn't mean we don't have setbacks and have issues that come up, but we know if something happens tomorrow, Erin's going to know who to go to for certain questions or problems or concerns. She's going to know who's managing the money. She's going to understand how it works, which is so important for someone like my daughter and my son. They want to understand the components and the pieces. And so we've broken it down for them so they can understand. And with many of my clients, they bring their children in, we talk about it. I give them my card and I tell the children, hey, you can call me anytime with questions, just like your parents can. If you have a question about what we're doing and how it's going to impact you, let's talk about it. If your child's nonverbal, that doesn't mean that they're incapacitated. If they can still communicate. And so it's especially with your children transitioning to adulthood and being able to make legal decisions, it's so important to start having conversations as early as possible so that it is something they become comfortable with.
I completely agree. And I know it's to think that you're going to talk to your kids about when you pass. You can skip that part and just make it about now, like you're talking about, Jenny, doing it now. And like everything else we do as autism parents, like we talked about this morning, we shift and pivot every time there's a change, but just the consistency of those conversations makes a big difference. Well, I hate to do this. It's been a wonderful conversation. We have to wrap it up before the webinar decides to wrap it up for us. Remember, everyone, that you can email Jenny if you have questions. If we didn't get to your questions today, I saw someone that said they had an important question, but I didn't see it come up. But anyway, please feel free to email Jenny McInerney. Her email address is shared with us right now on the screen, and her phone number. And I thank everyone for joining, and especially Jenny McInerney, thank you for your time today.
Thank
And
you. I
again,
appreciate it.
yeah, and all of this, like all of our other webinars, will be up on our YouTube page under Autism Support of Alabama. So please check out our YouTube page for all of our other previous webinars. Thank you, Jenny.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Bye.